Today on More Organised, Less Clutter, I'm talking with Arwen from Calm Space Professional Organising. She's a qualified social worker turned professional organiser in Brisbane. And today she will be sharing her framework around guiding you with decluttering and organising choices. Welcome, Arwen.
Thanks for having me, Narelle.
Thank you so much for making the time to come and chat to us. So let's start so people can get to know you. If you were a Barbie doll, what would be the two accessories that you would come with to give us a bit of insight into your hobbies and things that you maybe enjoy doing outside of organising?
Sure. Two accessories, probably a book. I am a reader, love reading, love of learning, escaping
Is
it.
that a Kindle or physical
No,
book?
physical book.
Yeah, yeah.
And a barbell. I do try and keep myself fit and healthy, and mostly for organising.
Yeah.
So yes, lifting some weights.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? I don't think people realise how physical professional organising can be
Yes,
in
very,
person.
very physical. Yes.
Yeah, I had someone last year, an employee, who in the end was like, I just can't keep up. It's just so physically exhausting, this job.
Yeah, I do have clients ask me, how do you do this all day, every day? And I think it's practice. Yeah, we're used to it.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we get used to it. But sometimes we have to remember that for the people we're working with, this is a bit unusual. Yeah.
But definitely the yoga, or for me, it's yoga and weights. But yeah, weights definitely helps, doesn't it?
Definitely keep strong. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, what strengths do you bring to your business in particular, like Calm Space Professional Organising, that makes your service unique?
So you mentioned in the intro that my professional background is social work. So I really think that gives me an understanding of people in their context. So their social context, in their family context, their living situation, the different factors that have gone into what their story is, and just an understanding of mental health and well-being. I bring that to my work with clients, but I'm definitely in the professional organizer camp now. This is where I like to.
And what would you say your percentage of like virtual versus in-person sessions are then?
Look, I'd love to do more virtual work, because even though a practical session in someone's home is, we're handling a lot of stuff, I really feel like it's not all about the stuff. It's about the thoughts and feelings around the stuff. And I think virtually you can get a lot of benefit from talking that through with someone who understands and spends a lot of time talking about people's relationship with their possessions. But it's probably kind of, I guess at the moment, I still spend a lot of time in people's homes, and people really like having someone there, the accountability and the help to work through decisions in real time. People really appreciate that.
And it's that body doubling with some of our clients too, isn't it? That really makes a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always say, if you have someone else who can body double with you in your life, great. It's just finding the right person for that. It needs to be someone who's very supportive and non-judgmental and can really be there for you and leave their own thoughts and feelings and opinions at the door, basically.
Yeah. Which is so hard for other people, and especially if they're close, compared to us who do it every day and we see everything. It's
Yeah.
not our stuff. So
Yeah,
we're not attached to it, aren't we?
exactly. Yeah, I have to remind clients, like, this is not emotional work for me, because
Yeah.
it's not my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So people find it really hard and feel stuck when they're decluttering. And it's more than just that physical process, like you just touched on before. And I know that you have a framework around this, around internal voices. Are you happy to talk about that and tell us a little bit more about the three voices?
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing this work for 9 years now, I think, and over that time, I just noticed some patterns and themes coming out across lots of different people. When they're trying to make a decision to keep an item or let it go, these different sort of statements come up, thoughts and feelings, and the themes started to really come out of that. And as I reflected on the work I was doing and what I was seeing, I kind of, came up with a bit of a framework for understanding the sort of patterns that we're seeing. So I kind of call it the three selves framework. And it's about these three sort of distinct parts of ourselves that might show up when we're making decluttering decisions. And they all have different ways they show up in our body and the thoughts and feelings and statements that go along with them. So they're called the anxious self, the aspirational self, and the authentic self. And they've all got this sort of slightly different nuance, and helping clients to identify when they've shown up is really helpful in their decluttering process.
So maybe explain a little bit about each one. Like
Yeah.
I actually really like the very first one. And I think, would you say that that one, the warrior, shows up potentially first for some people?
Yeah, I think this
Is
is
it
the one.
obvious?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
this one turns up often first, and we see a lot more of this one, I think. So in terms of the anxious self, I guess it's just trying to look after us. It's the one that wants safety. And sometimes for lots of people, decluttering and letting go of items feels a bit unsafe and a bit scary. So the anxious self, its focus is preventing kind of future regret and risks of letting go. And I think the way that it often shows up is in the statement like, well, what if I need this one day? Or I better keep this just in case. So it sounds pretty benign statement, but it's often coming from a place of, I'm not really sure I can handle it without this item. So it's overestimating the danger, but often what people are also doing is underestimating their own ability to handle that future, what if I need it one day question. And it can be one of the main reasons why people's places stay cluttered, because just letting go is feeling too scary. They haven't identified what the sort of worry is underneath that. The anxious self often turns up. If we're looking at physical sort of signs, it could turn up with like a bit of a tight chest or feeling a bit sick in the stomach about letting something go. And I also find this one is probably the one that's influenced by kind of family of origin stories, beliefs, and messages that we've picked up through our life as well. So sometimes you see some of that, stories about mum and dad or grandma or things that happen in the family that are kind of feeding into a bit of this worry about letting something go.
Yeah. And I suppose even around that financial, values that have been, come down through the generation as well makes a big difference too
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that.
absolutely. That worry about being able to get something again, or the worry about waste, or the worry about what something
Mm.
cost.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? And so then what is our second one? I really like this one. And in particular, I find this one probably, would you say, shows up in particular with some of your ADHD clients as well?
Yes, it does. So the aspirational self, this is like the dreamer, the crafter,
Yeah.
the lofty goals, the big ideas. And I should probably preface this by saying that there aren't any bad parts, that the
Mm.
anxious self has a role to keep us safe. The aspirational self is very motivating. It gets us doing things. It gets us excited, pursuing other goals. So it's often about who we want to be or things we'd like to do. And so it can show up in things like, if there's a lot of unused craft supplies, or we've moved through lots of different hobbies and interests. When it comes to fashion, it could be really trendy purchases. So things that are very on trend, and we often buy it because we kind of want to be someone that wears that type of clothing, or want to be someone that does that hobby because of some identity that we associate, that positive identity. I have a bit of a story in the blog that I wrote about this. I talk about sort of some of the things that it could show up with, and I talk about, we've got a cookbook for artisanal bread. And then a few months later, I was in a client's home and we found the artisan bread book. And I thought, oh, look, there's proof out in the wild that that wasn't like a ridiculous example for me to use, and that she did declutter the book during that session. So that's an example of the aspirational self. And it's not bad, but it can, if we move through a lot of trends or hobbies or try everything, it can build up to a lot of clutter. So the reality check when I see sort of the aspirational self show up in a session is was this hobby or this interest or this craft realistic when I bought it? Was it a realistic thing that I was going to be able to paint that bit of furniture or whatever it was? And is it realistic for our actual life now? It might be that it was great 10 years ago, but our life has moved on and that craft doesn't suit us anymore. There's a real shadow side with the aspirational self, that it can generate a lot of shame and self-criticism when people are working through these items and realizing that they've probably moved on from a craft that they really loved. It feels sad to let that, or that they've invested in project materials and haven't actually seen that through. And that, so often we don't want to approach that because it's generating a lot of shame and a bit of sadness. So that's the sort of aspirational self in a nutshell.
I love that. On the weekend, I worked with my daughter and did her bedroom. And she's in year 11. So she was like, we found there was a lot of jewelry sets and stuff that she was really into and she was selling them and stuff. And now she's like, I don't think I want to keep all of it. But she did keep a little section. She goes, I just want some for myself.
Right.
And she's let it go. And I said, look, we'll just put it out here and you can decide later in the week if you want to sell it or you want to give it to someone, what you want to do with it. But yeah, it was interesting just to see that with someone really close to you and working through that process as well.
It sounds like you did all the things that I would do, thinking about letting go of part rather than all. So rather getting away from all or nothing thinking, you can keep a part of something that was important to you. And then doing a bit of a reflection, like getting used to the idea that some of it might go and then revisiting that item. So, all the strategies that I would expect to see. It is trickier when it's someone close to you because, like you said, but I'm sure you're very, very skilled and able to sort of put on your organizer hat.
Yes, it was. I felt like I should have gone and got my organizer apron out of the car and put that on. Yeah. Yep. So what about the third part? What is our third part then?
So the third part, I call it the authentic self. So this is more the deep reflection of who you truly are, what you really believe, what your big goals are, what your values are. When you're operating from this space, there's not quite as much friction around the decision making. And the experience of that, I call it like a deep knowing. And sometimes it feels right and people can't explain why, because the authentic self is often working from a place of intuition. Now, intuition, sometimes people think it's a bit sort of woo-woo and hard to pin down, but really intuition is sort of all of our collected experiences, our collected beliefs, the things that we really want, our values, but it's often a little bit outside our awareness. So it can be hard to put language around why we know, but it is coming. We are drawing on a lot of our experience for that. So it's personal wisdom. I think the authentic self also has, if we can help people tap into it, some self-compassion for missteps or times they've, purchased things when it hasn't been that aligned. It's not coming from a place of fear. So that's how we can know if the authentic self is there. It's not scared, and it's being realistic about who we really are. So I would describe that. So it's like the gut feeling decisions. Now, not the sort of sick butterfly kind of gut that you might have when you're anxious, but it's that sort of deep certainty. And often people feel a burden lifted when they make decisions from this place. So as an organizer, I'd like to see people making decisions from the authentic self. So, and if I can get them there, I would see that as part of my role.
Definitely. And I think it takes time for some people to get to that as well and to understand that feeling and not confuse it between the anxious one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, the anxious self is, I like to get people to sort of thank the anxious part of themselves, just trying to keep them safe. That's fine. But it's probably not going to lead to decisions that are really aligned with that goal that they have for themselves. And the aspirational self, again, it's not bad. It's just, it can lead to a lot of buildup and it can lead to shame. So we want to sort of move through the middle of those with that sort of who you truly are, what you truly want, and make decisions from that place.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so good to have sort of a breakdown and to see that there's the difference between the three, and why they're there. I think that's most important for us so that we're not, shaming ourselves about having the anxious self all the time or feeling in that spot.
No.
So,
sorry. Oh, it just takes it takes practice to identify when the different parts turn up. And then you can just name it and notice it's there.
Yeah. So would you say that's how it helps people when they're decluttering, is actually around the naming it and identifying which part is maybe showing up?
Yeah, exactly. So that's knowing your patterns and how it turns up for you. And so becoming familiar of like, oh, this is that aspiration thing. And then you just get to observe that and think about, okay, yes, I've noticed that these thoughts and feelings are turning up about this item, but what's my bigger goal? What do I really want? And if we can get familiar with that, it can help people to work through those decisions.
Yeah, definitely. So if you had one thing that you wished the listeners could do to be more organized, what's one thing that you would love to see people do or help them do?
Look, I think stopping things at the door. So particularly if you're someone who is going to find it a little bit harder to let go of things is to really slow down the process of things coming into your home and your life, whether that's through picking up freebies or shopping or accepting, things from other people when they're decluttering. Just slow that down so that you're not setting yourself up for sort of future clutter and future tricky decisions.
Yeah, that acquiring, isn't it? Really having a lens on where is it coming into my life? I think that's the thing that people are quite surprised about when you ask them, so where are you acquiring it? That they've never even thought about it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I always feel like you can't do a decluttering session without talking about where is it all coming from, because prevention's better than a cure.
Yeah.
And if we can help people tune into their acquiring, that's going to set them up with a bit of a way to prevent maybe getting back into a situation where they feel like, that they need to get outside help or they've got a massive project on their hands.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And thank you so much for your time and also sharing that framework. I think that's going to help people who maybe didn't find other bits of information from other people that I've interviewed useful, but they actually like having a framework that then sets it out for them. And it's three bits that they can look at. Where can people find more information if they want to, or connect with you as well?
Yeah, sure. So my business is called Calm Space Professional Organising. I'm based in Brisbane, Australia, and I do offer virtual sessions. My website is www.calmspaceorganising.com.au. There's a blog about this framework on my website and a reflection guide as well that people can download if they want to work through that and try to identify these different parts for themselves. And yeah, they're very welcome to get in touch if they'd like to explore it further.
And I love the questions that you've got with that helps people to sort of work through that process to identify which part of their self it is. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time.
Thanks for having me.